responses. The member from Chatham-Kent, Essex.
Thanks, Speaker. It's a privilege to respond to the Minister's statement on the transformation of corrections on behalf of the Ontario PC Caucus and our leader, Patrick Brown. We're pleased that the government is starting to comprehend the severity of the crisis in corrections after the opposition has repeatedly called for actions. Patrick Brown, our leader, and myself have given our full support to Ontario's correctional staff, touring numerous facilities and repeatedly calling on for immediate action regarding the deplorable conditions of many of our province's jails and detention centres, as well as pressing the government for improving safety, not only for our correction officers, but also for our probation, parole and bailiff officers. And I would be remiss, Speaker, if I didn't also mention the safety of the inmates as well. We've continually spoken out on behalf of all correctional staff with an emphasis on addressing chronic understaffing, and offering support for all staff suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I applaud the Minister for committing to bring in more correctional officers, but have concerns over the extended time frames for these hires. We need additional staff now, not in 3 years. A staggering number of lockdowns have occurred due to chronic understaffing of correctional services. But not only does this abuse the basic human rights of inmates, many of whom have yet to be sentenced, but it also jeopardizes the health and safety of officers dealing with agitated inmate populations while being short-staffed. Far too long, our correction officers have been faced with the challenge of heading out the door in the morning without knowing if they will return at the end of the day. We also know the tremendous toll that takes. Our friends in corrections are among the most likely to experience significant challenges from post-traumatic stress disorder, and that applies to all staff. Our caucus was pleased when the government finally introduced its own bill on PTSD, but we were baffled when the government left probation and parole officers and bailiffs out of their PTSD bill. I've seen the pride that each correctional officer has for their job, their sworn duty to protect not only their brothers and sisters, but also inmates as well as the public. I've also seen the frustration on their faces as they discuss Ontario's broken correction systems. An alarming number of stabbings have occurred at province's jails and detention centres, and I'm hopeful that the government will, in fact, be considering expanding its successful pilot program of using body scanners to detect weapons that go undetected by traditional scanners such as ceramics. Ontario's crisis in corrections, Speaker, is not simply about understaffing. It's also about taking safety matters seriously. It's also about fixing the fundamental lack of respect shown to correctional, probation and parole officers across the province. We know that this must change. Safety concerns raised by frontline staff must be welcomed and encouraged by the government. Instead, we have in fact seen a government that has tried unsuccessfully to muzzle correctional staff. We will not be silenced. This must change. When I raised the question on behalf of concerned correctional officers about alarming safety issues at the province's crown jewel facility, the Toronto South West Detention Centre, it didn't take long for all staff members to receive a warning about confidentiality. The Minister is saying some very good things about the transformation of corrections, and to his credit, this government has in fact taken some very positive steps, but until trust can be restored between correctional staff and the Ministry, the crisis in corrections will continue. It will be a long journey for the government to regain the lost trust of its correctional staff, but on behalf of the entire PC caucus, we will be there every step of the way to ensure that commitments are honoured and that the crisis in corrections is fully and properly addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Further response.